Okay, so when you hear the word Messiah in a Jewish context, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably a triumphant king, right? A descendant of King David, bringing about this incredible era of world peace. But what if I told you that's only like half the story? See, tucked away deep inside Jewish tradition, there's actually a second messianic figure. And this one, well, he's a lot more mysterious and frankly, a lot more tragic. So yeah, you've heard of the Messiah. We've established that. But have you ever heard about the other one? The guy who's supposed to show up first, fight this really gritty, tough war, and is actually destined to lose, to fall in battle? It's like Jewish tradition gives us two sides of the same redemptive coin. On one side, you've got Mashiach ben David, the son of David. He's the one we all know, the triumphant king who's going to bring about this massive spiritual redemption. But before he can show up, there's Mashiach ben Yosef, the son of Joseph. And his job, totally different. He's the military guy, the precursor, whose whole mission is to get the physical world ready for what's coming next. And his story, yeah, it doesn't exactly have a happy ending. All right, so let's dig into what this practical and ultimately tragic forerunner is actually supposed to do. His mission is super grounded in the real physical world. Tradition lays it out in pretty clear steps, like a three-part plan. First, he shows up in the Upper Galilee and starts gathering all the scattered Jewish exiles. Then he leads this march on Jerusalem, and yeah, that means fighting. He has to overcome hostile powers, and finally, he gets the temple worship going again. It's a very political, very military agenda, you know? The goal is to restore Jewish sovereignty. That's the necessary first step. But here's the kicker. This is the twist that really defines his whole character. Even with all these successes, his personal destiny is, well, it's tragic. He's literally destined to be killed in the very wars he starts. But here's the thing, it's not seen as a failure, not at all. In fact, his death, his martyrdom, is considered a totally necessary, almost sacrificial step. It's what paves the way for the final, peaceful redemption that Mashiach ben David brings. His death is actually part of the plan. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds a bit mythological, right? But the idea of a warrior Messiah, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was born from a super real, super turbulent time in Jewish history. So back during the Roman occupation of Judea, messianic expectations were just through the roof. I mean, it was a fever pitch. And a lot of the time, those hopes were pinned on actual real-life military leaders. You had guys like Judas of Galilee and, of course, the most famous one, Simon Bar Kokhba. These men led massive revolts against Rome. Get this, Bar Kokhba was even officially declared the Messiah by the legendary Rabbi Akiva. So these weren't just some spiritual movements, no way. They were gritty political rebellions all about national liberation, which sounds an awful lot like the job description for Meshiach ben Yosef, doesn't it? But where did this whole two Messiah idea even come from? It's a really fascinating historical puzzle. Because if you look at the earlier Jerusalem Talmud, the one compiled back in the land of Israel, the idea just isn't there. It's totally absent. It only pops up later in the Babylonian Talmud. And that difference has led some to think that maybe, just maybe, the concept developed over time. You know, perhaps it was a way for the Babylonian Jewish community to make sense of the repeated failures of these military messiahs, like Bar Kokhba. Okay, but the story doesn't stop with history and politics. You know, like with so many things in Judaism, there's a much deeper mystical layer to all of this, a spiritual interpretation of this figure and his mission. And this is where things get really interesting, because we're about to shift from an external war to an internal one. The Kabbalists, the Jewish mystics, they came along and just completely reframed the whole narrative. Thinkers like the great Rav Yehuda Ashlag, they argued that the war Mashiach ben Yosef is fighting, it's not against flesh and blood enemies at all. It's a spiritual war, a war against the forces that create separation and illusion in our world. So, on this mystical level, his mission is suddenly about cosmology, not conquest. His actions are a crucial part of what's called tikkun olam, this huge cosmic process of repairing the world. The mystics teach that his struggle isn't about winning on a battlefield. It's about channeling a kind of divine energy to reveal the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light of creation itself. And what's the ultimate point? It's to help every single one of us see that all souls, all of them, are fundamentally interconnected. And this right here, this brings us to what might be the most profound takeaway from this whole idea. It's a total paradigm shift. It completely turns the concept of redemption on its head. Okay, to really get this, there's one more mystical term we need, klipot nagah. Think of it like this. In Kabbalah, this is the veil of the ego. It's like a shell or a husk that makes us see ourselves as separate from everyone and everything else. It's the grand illusion that we're all just these distinct, competing individuals instead of what we really are, parts of one single, unified whole.
So when you look at it this way, through this spiritual lens, the ultimate battle, the real work of redemption, it's not about making everyone the same. It's not about wiping out all the differences in the world. No, instead, it's all about removing that curtain of ego, that klipat noga. It's about a fundamental shift in how we see things, a shift in perception that finally lets us see the unity that's been there the entire time, just hidden right under the surface.
And that leaves us with a pretty powerful question to chew on, doesn't it? What if the whole story of the two messiahs isn't really about some future event at all? What if it's a map for us, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, true redemption isn't something that happens to the world, but is a profound change in how we see the world?